Book of Matthew chapter 5, reading verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out, and to be trodden under foot of men. So it is in a continuation to Sermon on the Mount in chapter 5. Up to verse 12 we have seen the Beatitudes, what the Lord said, 9 of them. And in verse 13, now the Lord is starting in a different way to teach his disciples. So the Lord said, you are the salt. That means he was addressing to the disciples that they are going to be the salt of the world. Yeah. But if the salt have lost its savour, wherewith it shall be salted? It is therefore good for nothing. So the salt has got a natural character of antagonizing the corruption. So it is functions like a preservative, and it will stop anywhere it is getting anything spoiling or bringing to some different change of nature. And it counteracts onto the corruption or any particular product is getting spoiled. That has got its nature. That is why when we use in pickles and other things as a preservative, that salt, so that it will remain and uncorrupted and unspoiled. But if it loses its salt, or it loses its savor, that means the way it is supposed to counteract the corruption, if that loses its character, then where will you salt that one? That means he is saying you cannot do it. It is not possible to do so. Then what will you do but to be cast out? So that is useless. They will put it outside. And to be trodden under the foot of men. So then the people will trample on that one. So it is no good. But the Lord in the creation, when he has created different things, and he did not speak so sarcastically as he spoke about this passage. So for everything, whatever he has created, there is a purpose. But here he said if the salt has lost its savor, then it is no good for anything, and it will be thrown out and to be cast out and trodden by the foot of the man. So it is not a good comment by the Lord about the salt which lost its savor. Then when he said, you are the salt of the earth, so the disciples have to understand what is its functionality. Then on different occasions, the Lord has taught them what it is supposed to do and how it should function. And when they realized that one, the way they need to function or act upon it, that is a great blessing. And in the Old Testament also, in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 19 to 22. So somebody can read that one.
Then the men of the city said to Elisha, please notice the situation of the city is pleasant, as my Lord sees, but the water is bad and the ground barren. And he said, bring me a new bowl and put salt in it. So they brought it to him. Then he went out to the source of the water and cast in the salt there and said, thus says the Lord, I have healed this water. From it there shall be no more death or barrenness. So the water remains healed to this day, according to the word of Elisha which he spoke.
Yeah, that is enough, sister. Thank you. So here we see when Elisha come to a city that it looks very beautiful. But the land is barren because it has no sweetness, and there is the water has not water is not proper. So it is a situation of this year. The water is not, and the ground is barren. Then what he has to do is he said it is not good water. I don't know what translations you have different things. But what it means is, verse 21, and he went forth into the spring of the waters and cast the salt therein and said, thus saith the Lord, I have healed the waters. There shall not be from thence any more death or barren land. So because the water is not, then there is a death and there is a barrenness in the land. So there is a source of the water, but the water is not good to spring up the life or to feed the people and also the land. It needs healing. So now in the world, that is the situation. Wherever we go, that everything looks very beautiful and good. But actually, the life of God, where it should come forth in the hearts of the people to make it really livable unto God or to fulfill the purposes of God for which man was created, is completely lost. But in that condition, the Elisha has told the disciples, you bring a new bowl and salt. So anyone who has really become a new creation and accepted the Lord in a true sense and came to the Lord and sees the great power of God which can operate through them if they trust, the Lord wants to use them as a salt to change the things which are actually barren and no life at all. So the same concept the Lord also taught in different passages in the New Testament. So when the Lord says, you are the salt of the earth, that means we, in the New Testament disciples, are supposed to function where the death is acting, where there is a barrenness. And that is the opposite of death is the life, opposite of barrenness is the fruitfulness. What it has converted, the spring of the water, which was not earlier, now became savor, full of life-giving thing, is the salt. And the Lord is making all of us to become, or He expects that we should function in that manner, where we will become the source of the life, inspiration, fruitfulness, joy, connection to the Lord, and bringing life and the real meaning of the life in relation to God and why they are living here. That is the purpose of God towards us. But when we fail that purpose, when we have not understood that purpose, when a man becomes self-indulgent life, even after knowing the Lord, then we are not passing on any life to anyone, then that is no good. So book of 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16. To the one we are the savor of death unto death, and to the other the savor of life unto life. So wherever there is a people rejecting, then it is death. So we are pronouncing that sentence of death on them because they don't want that newness of life to come into them. But wherever the Lord has prepared their hearts, they recognize their lives are filled with the death and the barrenness, then we became a life unto them. That is the life which we carried in our mortal bodies to manifest the life of Christ, so that the life of the people who are now in death may be rekindled, opened up their eyes to see the great plan and purpose for them, why they are here upon the earth. So he said, we became that kind of a tool or a salt in the hand of God. So in other places we can see Luke's Gospel, chapter 14, verses 25 to 35. And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me, and hate not his father, and mother, and wife, and children, and brethren, and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross, and come after me, cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply, after he hath laid the foundation, that is not able to finish it, all that behold it began to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, going to make war against another king, sitteth not down first, and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet great way off, he sendeth an embassage and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he or be of you forsaketh not all that he had, he cannot be my disciple. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost its savour, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill, but men cast it out. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. So here we see the Lord was talking to his disciples and the three conditions to be function as a disciple. So firstly, the meaning of the disciple is this. In the Greek word, it says metahetes. So when you write in English, it is M-A-T-H-E-T-E-S, metahetes. And the explanation of that word runs like this. An adherent who accepts the instruction given to him makes it as a rule of his conduct. So that is the meaning of disciple. That means who adheres to the rules or instructions given by the master and sticks to that. And not only he sticks to that he makes that as a rule of his conduct. So that is the meaning of a disciple. And we are not talking about those who have believed the Lord for the forgiveness of sins, but not following the Lord. So there are many who can be like that, who are like that. But he is talking a different sect of people who recognize the love of God, the sacrifice of God for them, and also the greater and the lofty purposes for their calling, and how they need to follow him. They are called the disciples. And the disciple is the one who will adhere to the instructions received from the master and makes it as a rule of his conduct. That is how he conducts his life. So that is the meaning of disciple. So then if anybody wants to follow him as a disciple, then there are three conditions he put. One, in verse 26. If any man come to me and hate not his father, mother, wife, children, brethren, sisters, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So when we are living in this world, there are many things. All these relationships are also given by God. Father, mother, brother, sister, and later on when we come to an age, then wife. All these things have come because of God-given relationships. We cannot say, I will have to follow these relationships. But in following the Lord and the relationships of the natural relationships, then he says, you need to prioritize. And that priority is, you must give priority to me. Sometimes it is very difficult to say to our own people, especially wife and children, then we make a lot of compromises. But he says, if anybody is my disciple, and that will not work. You love your wife, but when it comes between your wife and me, then you should give priority to follow the Lord. If you are trying to displease your wife in that context, then you cannot help it. But you need to give the priority to follow the Lord. That is what the Lord is saying. But if we are not adhering to that principle or what the Lord is demanding, then we are not disciples. And many times there is a conflict on this one. But the Lord should give us wisdom. But everybody should have a proper heart that I must glorify my Lord than to please my wife, children, my father, mother, or anybody. Same way it is vice versa. Then he says, and whosoever doth not bear his cross nor come after me, he cannot be my disciple. Then every day that they have to take up their own cross and follow. So that means putting death unto himself. Then if I die, then where will I live by? It is by the life of the Lord. So in the first one also, then my priorities, including the natural relationships, even my profession, or anything in which are given naturally, which are there with for all of us. And the second one, and to myself itself. Those are all outside relationships. But within me also, there need to be a cross. Then I must live only by the life of the Lord. Then only I am a disciple of God. Then he gives the example of building a tower connected to the first one, then the second one going to the battle, and the third one he comes. So likewise, whosoever all that whosoever of you, he be of you, that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. So if we are not willing to forsake, then he says that we are not his disciples. The forsaketh word there, it means in the original, it is properly arranging the priorities. That is the meaning. He's not saying that if you have this much, then you sell it off and follow me. But he is saying that you properly prioritize that. Then what is important, your material benefit or the spiritual benefit? What is good for you, whether to follow the world or to follow the Lord? And when you are comparing that one, then you need to take or adopt a stand or adhere to the principle to please the Lord. So many times what we earn or what we possess or what we received as an inheritance from the parents or anyone, then we all have a conflict to forsake them or to leave them. So nobody is interested to see that making a loss or let those things go what you have got or what you possessed. But when to follow the Lord, if that is becoming an obstruction, he said, you need to forsake. Then you will not, otherwise you will not be my disciple. So in the days to come, the Lord is going to be the ruler of the world. And everything, whatever the world possesses also, it will be, he is the ultimate master. But now, as we live in this world, as we continue to establish the right upon the possessions what we possess, or what we wanted to have more, then there is a conflict between what the Lord is saying and what my heart is. Then it is a problem. That means my priorities are not properly arranged. And my heart is leaning towards the positions. And if I have to lose, then I am feeling the pinch. And I am not looking into the gains, what I am making as a disciple by adhering to the instructions received from my master. And I am not making that as a rule of conduct in my life. So normally when it comes to the positions of our life, then it is a covetousness or a greedy part. Then that plays a lot. Then we become friends with the world. Then we also, instead of putting a non-corruptive or a preservative nature of salt, but we are compromising with so many other principles of the world to have more positions or to hold on to what we have with the world. And that functionality, the Lord calls it as the salt which has no savor. So we need to be careful about that. Then whatever the Lord gave me, then when I am prioritizing my things in my life, if there is a conflict coming, whether to have more, I am not content, or I am not even establishing the right on things which I possess, the right of my master, my Lord, then I am trying to take hold of everything and wanted to run things, then I am not a disciple. So in that context, the Lord says, the salt is good, but if the salt have lost its savor, then it is no good. So when I am becoming friends with the world, and I am not contesting the practices done by the world with other people wherever I am keeping quiet, or I go one more step forward and I agree with them with the corrupt practices, then the salt has lost its savor. So then accordingly, then the Lord is saying that he is not a disciple. A disciple is the one wherever that kind of a practices are being maintained, honored, and we need to stay away and very firmly let that know that this is not agreeable to me and I am not going to be the part of that, whatever the decisions you are making, because it is corruptive. And when we are failing to make our stand clear, whether they like it or not, that is a different thing. But in my heart, I am feeling it is okay, since I am not a part of it, but I am just keeping quiet, and I don't think that the Lord will accept that situation. So book of Psalms chapter 50, verse 18. When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and hast been partaker with adulterers. So it doesn't mean that in the physical adultery, but anything, our friendship with the world is called adultery in James 4:4. And when we are with the thief, that means who are practicing corruption, then hypocrisy, or by greediness amassing the wealth, then we are just keeping quiet. That means where our Lord has kept us to function as a disciple by showing forth the antagonizing nature to the corruption, and we are just allowing it. When the Lord comes, when he establishes his kingdom, he will be the rightful owner. But as long as we are living in this world, the Lord has given all of us certain things as our positions. In those positions, when we are not able to give the proper right and not bringing the honor and glory with those things, then as a disciple that I am not functioning as a salt. So it is very difficult. And every day making looking unto the Lord and asking him, and whatever you have given me, then I may learn to live under your authority to dispose them at your consent. And whatever is not acceptable to you, that give me grace to stay away from those decisions. And my eyes may not looking into the amassing the earthly positions, so that I may not doing any kind of things which are the practiced by the world day and night. So I had a great desire in all my business, that the Lord may not charge me because I have heard anything which is not according to his way. So we all need to carry that kind of a reverence. And whatever my heart is longing for, looking for, and not according to the will of God, by compromising with the world, then I am not his disciple. Verse 35. It is neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill, but men cast it out. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. So again, as what the Lord said in Matthew 5:13, it is the same thing. And it will be cast out. And in one more place, a book of Mark chapter 9. So I am reading from 30 to 32, 3 verses. And they departed thence and passed through Galilee, and he would not that any man should know that. For he taught his disciples and said unto them, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and after that he is killed, he shall rise the third day. But they understood not that saying, and they were afraid to ask him. So previously that the Lord has taken Peter, John, and James to the Mount of Transfiguration, and they could see the glorified Lord on the mountaintop. After giving that revelation, all with the Lord, all these 3 disciples came down, and then immediately there was a casting out a demon from a son who has been affected by the demons. And his disciples could not cast that out, but the Lord has cast that demons out, and the boy was set free. But after that, on their way back to Galilee, now this is the passage which we have read, The Lord told them that he is going to go to Jerusalem and he will be delivered, killed, and raised on the third day. And the Lord told them that you don't tell any of these things, either the transfiguration or this message, to anybody else. But though the Lord was talking about the more weighty things to the disciples, on the way back to Peter's house, then they were all disputing who is greatest among them. So that was not a good thing to observe in the disciples' lives. Because John, Peter, and James has been taken to the Mount of Transfiguration, they saw God glorified. They were thinking that they are superior than other 9 disciples. So it has set a different kind of a heart towards them. Then that was a problem. Then while they were on the way, they were disputing. And once they reached the home, the Lord has called and spoke to them and showing forth a small child. Unless you are converted like a little child, you will no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven. That was also recorded in book of Matthew chapter 18. So the Mount of Transfiguration is in chapter 17. And here it is both are there in the same chapter in Mark. And while they are traveling back, and one dispute was who is greatest among them. That is one thing. And secondly, Mark 9:38. And John answered him saying, Master, we saw one casting out demons in thy name. And he followeth not us, and we forbade him because he followeth not us. So now, they on the way they saw another man that who was also casting out the demons in the name of Lord Jesus Christ. John has stopped him. You cannot do this. And because he is not with us. So John's contention was, if he is with the Lord, he should be with him or with that group. Then the Lord said in verse 39, but Jesus forbade him not. Jesus said, forbade him not. For there is no man which shall do a miracle in my name that can lightly speak evil of me. So if anybody is doing anything in my name, then you don't stop him. Let him do. For he that is not against us is on our part. So if anybody is not against us, and he is on our part, that means he doesn't have to be in your group or lot or the way you are doing things. They may be doing differently, but in the name of the Lord, since as long as they are not against you or against us, they are with us. That is fine. You don't trouble them. So in book of Luke chapter 9, verse 50. And Jesus said unto them, forbid him not, for he that is not against us is for us. So if anybody is not against you, not stopping you, not to do this, that, as long as they are not doing that, then they are with you. You don't worry about them. If they do in the name of the Lord something differently than you and not with you, still they are okay. You don't worry about them. Then we come back to Mark 9. He said, verse 41 onwards. For whosoever shall give you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you belong to Christ, verily I say unto you, you shall not lose his reward. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he were cast into the sea. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having 2 hands to go into hell, into the fire that never shall be quenched. So if you come across someone who does not agree with you and who is not with you in everything, but living a Christian life and wanted to do in the name of the Lord the way he understood or they understood, if you offend him, if you stop him, and if you say that they need to do whatever you are doing, and they must adhere to what you are saying, and if you are offending him by any means, and that is guilty. So he said, if your hand is offending, you cut it off. If your eye is offending, you cut it off. That means anyone who does do the things of the Lord differently, and who is not with you, Lord is saying to John that you don't have a right to stop him. Let him do. That is fine. So in Philippians chapter 1, while Paul was writing to the letter to them, while he was in prison, there are some people who were propagating the gospel out of jealousy. And also some people, they wanted to create him more trouble. But Paul was saying, by any means the Lord is being preached, I am happy about it. I have no problem. If it is a trouble to me, that is okay. But I don't want to stop them, or I don't want to offend them. So here, the Lord is saying, you receive them and you don't offend them. So then he continues in 49. For everyone shall be salted with fire, or every sacrifice shall be salted with fire. And every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Book of Leviticus chapter 2 verse 13. And every oblation of thy meat offering shall thou season with salt. Neither shall thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. So when you offer bring the animal sacrifice, now there is no life in it. Before it gets corrupted, then the priest is supposed to put salt upon it so that there will be a preservative. And after that one only, then you need to put it on the altar. So before that, no. He said all the offerings should be salted with salt. So that has, when you put that one, then it can be considered worthy to be offered as a sacrifice. So now in this context, we are noticing two things. One, those 3 disciples who were taken to the mountaintop to see the glorious transfigured Lord, and in them they feel that they are superior than others, and they were fighting on the way down that who is greater. And on the way further, John was disputing with another person who is not with them and stopped him not doing the work. So if you take those two contexts, then the Lord was teaching his disciples, every offering, every sacrifice should be salted before it is offered or put it on the altar for fire. So when, if that salt has no savor, it is supposed to stop the corruption. So it should function as a preservative. It should function as an antagonizing agent on the body of the sacrifice. And it stopped. So it has no savor, so it is stopped. Then it is no good. So as a disciple, he says, if you are supposed to receive the brethren, if you are showing forth of any of that nature, and if you are stopping him instead of receiving, if you are not willing to give a cup of water, receiving him and accept him and see all his weaknesses and learn to love him, then you don't have the nature of the salt in you. So whatever it is working, then the pride is working. Then the supremacy is working. Then your knowledge puffed and nature, and you don't have any kind of a consideration, those who do not have your understanding or your life. You are looking down the brethren. That is no savor of the salt. Then verse 50. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost his saltness, wherewith will you season it? Means it cannot be done. Have salt in yourselves and have peace one with another. So if you have salt, then the John will accept the brother who is doing or casting out the demons in the name of the Lord. And if they have salt and they will not find for the supremacy who is greater than the other, then what will they have? If they are able to receive the brethren, and if they are not fighting that who is greater than among them, then they will have peace with one another. So the salt if it has, then it accepts the brethren, it receives them, it loves them, it encourages them, and it will not find its superior place among the brethren. Then you will have peace. Whenever you are looking for you are something greater or higher and filled with pride instead of love, then you lost the savor of the salt. Then you don't have peace with others. You always feel that you need to be recognized because of yourself. And wherever myself is working, I lost the savor of the salt. Though the one who has the salt receives the brother, be careful not to offend the brother, loves the brethren, encourages the brethren, and just feels that he is one with them. Book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, reading verses 19 to 27. For though I be free from all men, yet I have made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. So Paul, who has taken to different heights of the heavens, had a tremendous revelation of so many things he wrote, he experienced, and God has so magnificently and used it in so many places in the world. But as far as talking to about them, I am free from all men, but I made servant to all of them so that I may not offend anyone. I may not establish my supremacy. On the contrary, I may say that I have salt and wanted to manifest the savor of the salt towards the people. 20. And unto the Jews I became a Jew, so that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, I am under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without law, as without law, being not without the law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without law. To the weak became as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means have some. Verse 23. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker there with you. So now he is saying that I don't want to offend anyone, but on the contrary, I will go a step forward to receive all of them. Jew, Gentile, who follows the law, who does not follow the law, whatever may be their condition, that I am not going to dispute with them, but I wanted to function as a person who has the savor of the salt, to receive all of them, not to offend anyone. 24. Know ye not that they which run a race run all, but one receiveth the prize, so run that you may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. If therefore so run, not as uncertainty, so fight, not as one with beat at the air, but I keep under my body, and bring it unto subjection, lest by any means that I may have preached to others, I myself should be cast away. So to receive a Jew, a one who is not under the law, who is one under the law, a Gentile, different nation, different people, different races, whatever I need to become, not to offend anyone, but to receive all, then I beat my body. So I have so much of revelations. And I spoke to God, and I have seen Him, and so many things I came to know. But as far as receiving my brethren, and accepting them, and living a life to gain all of them, I present my body as if it is salted, and ready to sacrifice on the altar. No corruption. Then you imagine a person who has got such a wonderful high revelations need to function among the people who are disputing, rejecting, and casting him away. But he says, I love you. I carry the life of the Lord to manifest the saltness, the life, the change of life is possible with you. I became a new cruse, which is filled with the salt, to put it into the world, to manifest the savor of the Lord wherever I go, and filled with the life, where the barrenness will be gone, the death will be decimated, and I will present the Christ. For that one, I beat my body black and blue. I bring it into subjection That time I don't remember what I have seen of the Lord, where I have been, whatever the revelations I have received. I look at my brother. I don't look at the weakness of him. I don't look at that he is not with me. And if he is the brother, then I will receive him. And it is very difficult. And wherever we disagree on certain things, and to accept the way we accept the others, it is difficult for a man. A disciple is the one, he said, God loved all, then I need to love all, Jew, Gentile, those who are under the law, not under the law, those who did this, those who was differently than me. I beat my body, but I receive them. I bring my body under subjection, but I don't want to offend my brother. Then all these three passages, either in Matthew, Luke, Mark, everywhere the Lord is speaking, then that either in relation to the things of the world, either in relation to the brethren, either in relation to our families, the priorities should be the Lord. Then you are filled with the savor of the salt. Then the Lord, you will become a new cruise, where you will bring the life and you will decimate the barrenness and the fruitfulness and bring it the fruitfulness. It is a tall order, but every day we all need to, once we wanted to become disciples. The one who will adhere to the instructions and make that as a rule of his conduct in his life.